My fiancée, Daphne, has a male best friend who is a photographer and they are extremely close. They would share the same glass of water and the same bowl of rice. Sometimes, they would even sleep in the same bed, embracing each other. The day of Daphne's birthday was also the day of our wedding. Her male best friend, Ethan, was invited to be the photographer of our wedding. Just before the wedding was about to start, my mother and I went to the bride's dressing room to check on the preparations. Then we saw Ethan looking at Daphne obsessively and saying, "Daphne, you look really beautiful today." After that, he leaned over and kissed Daphne on the lips. My mother was shocked and rushed into the dressing room, asking Ethan to mind his manners. However, Daphne protected Ethan and said sharply, "I've known Ethan for so many years. If we were going to fall in love, we would have done it long ago. It's just a kiss. What's the big deal?" She said aggressively, "If you're not nice to Ethan again, I won't get married today." After saying she wouldn't get married, Daphne stood in front of my mother and me, with her chin raised, looking cold and fearless. My mother was so anxious and angry that she couldn't speak, clutching her chest. Ethan then patted Daphne on the back and interjected, "Daphne, the Julian family hasn't even married you yet, and they're already so rude to the people around you. You can imagine what your life will be like in the future. In my opinion, it's better not to get married. It just so happens that today is your birthday, and I've prepared a grand birthday party for you. You can get married anytime, but your birthday is only once a year." As Ethan spoke, he slid his hand from Daphne's back to her slender waist in front of me, showing an affectionate and ambiguous gesture. Ethan did it on purpose. I pursed my lips and remained silent, looking at Daphne with the last glimmer of hope. But Daphne just looked back at me indifferently. Not only did she not distance herself from Ethan as I had hoped, but she also leaned into Ethan's arms deliberately, as if on purpose. I realized that she was waiting for me to make a statement, as if she was certain that I would compromise. I lowered my eyes and hid the disappointment in my eyes. Suppressing the surging sadness in my heart, I couldn't help but laugh at myself. I've known Daphne for 6 years and we've been in a relationship for 5 years. It's neither a short nor a long time, but she and Ethan have known each other since high school. They both claim to be each other's closest confidants. Between her and Ethan, they can share the same glass of water. They can share the same bowl of rice. They can even sleep in the same bed. What's more, when they are happy or frustrated, they would kiss each other without considering the boundaries. Sometimes it's on the cheek, sometimes on the forehead. Sometimes, just like a moment ago, it's a direct kiss on the lips. Each time it's just a quick touch and doesn't go further, but every time I see it, I still can't accept it and feel annoyed. So I seriously expressed my thoughts to Daphne, hoping that she would not be so close to Ethan. Daphne thought about it for a long time before she agreed. But at the same time, she was a bit dissatisfied and pouted, making fun of me. "Julian, you're a grown man. Why are you so petty? I've known Ethan longer than I've known you. If we were going to be together, we would have been together long ago. What are you afraid of? We're just used to expressing our emotions in this way. Besides, who says friends can't kiss each other? If you were this close to a good friend, would definitely be happy for you instead of trying to stop you." Daphne was obviously unhappy with my nitpicking. I smiled shyly, kissed her lips, and showed my weakness to her, saying, "I'm just jealous." At that time, I was full of love, and Daphne stopped mocking and ridiculing me with a coquettish look. However, joy and sorrow coexisted. Soon after, Ethan, angry and frustrated because Daphne had repeatedly refused to be close to him, came to the door and angrily questioned me. "How I get along with Daphne is our business. What are you interfering for? You're just a bumpkin from the countryside. Letting you stay by Daphne's side is already showing you some respect. Don't push your luck and be ungrateful." In a fit of rage, he kicked me to the ground. Naturally, I didn't back down and got up and punched him in the face. Coincidentally, just as my fist landed on Ethan's face, Daphne came back. She rushed over, pushed my hand away, and protected Ethan behind her. "Are you crazy?" I wanted to explain that I didn't start the fight. Daphne didn't give me a chance. "Julian, I've already compromised for you and promised to distance myself from Ethan. Aren't you satisfied yet?" She looked disappointed. "Ethan is my most important friend. I hope you understand that." I stood there, my hands clenched into fists, feeling extremely sour in my heart. And Ethan stood behind Daphne, looking smug, as if he was watching a joke. Since then, whenever there was a conflict between me and Ethan, no matter who was right or wrong, Daphne would always stand in front of Ethan and oppose me. She compromised for me once, but I endured it countless times. But today, on our wedding day, a day of great joy, her compromise no longer worked. And I didn't want to endure it anymore. Daphne saw that I didn't speak for a long time. Her expression paused, and she said coldly, reminding me, Julian, whether the wedding can proceed today depends entirely on your and your mother's attitude. My mother, forgetting her anger, quickly grabbed my arm and whispered, Julian, talk to Daphne nicely. Don't make things unpleasant. My mother is an ordinary rural woman who hopes for her son to get married and start a career. The years have left marks on her face. At this moment, in her eyes, there was the same kind of forbearance and timidity that I used to have. It was blinding and made me feel uncomfortable. I held my mother's hand, looked up at Daphne, and made a decision that no one expected. Cancel the wedding. Daphne widened her eyes, looking completely disbelieving. No, don't cancel it. My mother was so anxious that she patted me. You child, what are you talking about? How can you cancel the wedding? She turned around and took Daphne's hand. Daphne, Mom didn't mean to be rude to your friend. I was just anxious. Mom is apologizing to you. Let's not cancel the wedding. Among the 4 people present, only Ethan smiled at that moment. He slapped my mother's hand away, took Daphne's hand, and said triumphantly, Daphne, I told you so. Julian doesn't really want to marry you. Look, he hasn't even married you yet, and he's already threatening you with canceling the wedding. Daphne, you mustn't compromise with him again. My eyes involuntarily fell on their hands. Daphne seemed to notice. She put away her disbelieving expression, curled her lips, and deliberately held Ethan's hand back. Julian, are you sure you want to cancel the wedding? I pursed my lips, pinched my palm hard, feeling extremely sour in my heart. My mother had already started bowing and apologizing to Ethan. I'm sorry, son. Please forgive Auntie. But Ethan just looked down on my mother, pouted, and ignored her. Mom, enough. I grabbed my mother and stopped her from apologizing further. Looking at Daphne, I said firmly, let's call off the wedding. Daphne's expression changed again. After a while, she said in a cold voice, Julian, you're the one who said you want to cancel it. It's not my fault. Anyway, I'm not very satisfied with this wedding. I hope next time, you can learn from this experience and put more effort into it. After saying that, Daphne let go of Ethan's hand, gave me a cold look, picked up her bag, and left. She didn't even care that she hadn't had time to change out of her wedding dress. Julian quickly followed, not forgetting to look back and provoke me. I remained indifferent and let the 2 of them leave. But my mother, who had never experienced such a thing, rushed forward and grabbed Ethan's sleeve, wanting to continue apologizing. Unexpectedly, Ethan suddenly turned around and pushed my mother hard, causing her to fall to the ground. You old woman, are you done yet? Don't touch me. As soon as he finished speaking, with a bang, my mother fell to the ground unexpectedly, hitting the back of her head. She couldn't move immediately. Daphne turned around in shock. Ethan was also stunned. I quickly stepped forward to check on my mother's condition. Ethan was eager to explain to Daphne, it's not my fault. She came to pull me first, and I just pushed her lightly as a reflex when I was startled. Bullshit reflex. I was burning with anger, and my eyes were filled with hatred. I kicked Ethan to the ground without holding back. Sure enough, Daphne stood in front of Ethan again and accused me without hesitation, Julian. Why are you hitting people again? Looking at this scene, my heart ached even more, and I felt extremely depressed. Julian, apologize to Ethan. Otherwise, I won't forgive you. Daphne said coldly. I didn't care to listen to what she was saying anymore. I quickly called an ambulance and crouched down to call my mother. Seeing this, Daphne said indifferently, it's just a light push. It's not that serious. She's not going to die. My eyes were red with anger, and I roared, get out. I had never spoken to Daphne in such a tone and attitude before. When Daphne heard it, her face turned red and then pale with anger. In the end, she didn't even care about Ethan and turned around and left. The sound of her high heels, clacking, as she walked heavily was enough to show how angry Daphne was. The guests at the wedding were in an uproar when they saw Daphne and Ethan leaving the hotel. Several close friends and relatives came directly to the dressing room to check on the situation. They were all startled to see my mother lying on the ground. I returned to the wedding venue, announced the cancellation of the wedding, and apologized to the guests. The ambulance arrived quickly. However, my mother was old and had underlying chronic diseases. Her head hit the ground hard, causing a cerebral hemorrhage, and she ultimately couldn't be saved. Today, which was supposed to be a day of great joy for me, turned out to be the day of my mother's passing. I staggered and knelt on the ground, almost on the verge of collapse, and couldn't help but wail. Together with my uncles at home, I went back to our hometown to handle my mother's funeral arrangements. 7 days later, I returned to the city holding my mother's portrait. During these 7 days, there was no news from Daphne. Perhaps she was still angry and waiting for me to take the initiative to make peace. Or perhaps she simply didn't care and didn't even think of me at all. No matter the reason, I'm not interested in knowing now. I sent a message to Daphne. Meet me at the Civil Affairs Bureau at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Although our wedding didn't go smoothly, we had already gotten the marriage certificate last month. But Daphne didn't reply to this text message for a long time. Instead, in the evening, I received photos sent by Ethan. In the photos, Daphne was wearing the wedding dress that I had specially ordered for her. She was sitting on the ground alluringly, leaning against the corner of the wall. There was an orange warm light above her head, and she looked very beautiful, but the scissors in her hand were extremely sharp. The white wedding dress was cut to pieces and scattered all around. I unconsciously opened my WeChat moments and indeed saw several posts by Ethan. On Daphne's birthday, he updated, "Happy birthday to Princess Daphne. I'm so glad that I'm still by your side on your birthday this year. You'll always be my baby/love." The accompanying pictures were a 9-square grid, and the picture he had just sent to me was among them. In the following days, Ethan maintained the frequency of updating once a day, posting beautiful photos of Daphne, sexy, charming, and revealing a lot of skin, making people dare not look at them too much. Ethan took these photos. I knew that. In Ethan's camera, Daphne was hot, innocent, and seductive. After posting these photos on social media and self-media platforms, they always attracted a lot of attention and were very eye-catching. It's just that the comments in the comments section were unbearable to read. Every time I saw those words, I felt a bit uncomfortable. But Daphne regarded those lewd remarks as compliments, thought I was making a big deal out of nothing, sneered at me for not understanding art, and didn't allow me to express any opinions. I didn't want to make her angry, so I deliberately didn't pay attention to them and avoided making myself unhappy. Now, when I saw these so-called artistic photos that Daphne talked about, my heart was as calm as still water, and I couldn't feel any emotions at all. I deleted the photos sent by Ethan one by one and closed my WeChat moments. At the same time, I replied to Ethan, "You are not innocent in my mother's death, and I will safeguard my rights to the end." Early the next morning, I went to wait at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. On my phone, there was a reply sent by Daphne in the early morning. "Daphne, I don't want a divorce." I replied, "Then I will file for divorce." There was no further response. When it was exactly 10 o'clock, Daphne didn't show up. I waited patiently for more than 10 minutes, and when she still didn't arrive, I was about to call a lawyer. At this moment, Daphne arrived late, wearing high heels and sunglasses. Ethan, who was always by her side, was still following behind her. As soon as she saw me, Daphne opened her red lips and directly made a conclusion, "I don't agree to the divorce." I ignored her words and walked towards the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Daphne seemed to have not expected that I would ignore her. She angrily took off her sunglasses and shouted behind me, "Julian, do you take marriage as a joke? You want a divorce right after getting married? Are you playing with me? Does your mother also agree to our divorce?" When I heard Daphne mention my mother, I suddenly stopped in my tracks. Daphne snorted, looking as if she had expected it. "I knew it. Your mother would never let us get divorced. She couldn't wait for me to marry into your Julian family." I slowly turned around. Instead of looking at Daphne, I looked at Ethan standing behind her. Ethan stuck out his neck, looking everywhere but not making eye contact with me. "My mother?" I sneered and swept my eyes back and forth between Daphne and Ethan. Then, I pretended to suddenly understand. "So you still don't know that my mother was pushed to the ground and died after failing to be rescued on the day of the wedding? You're talking nonsense." Before Daphne could react, Ethan became agitated and jumped up. "What do you mean she was pushed to the ground? Clearly, your mother didn't stand steady and fell to the ground herself. Besides, would someone die just from a fall? If she really died, it's because your mother had a short life and deserved to die." My face darkened, and I clenched my fists. Ethan was startled by my expression. You violent maniac. Do you want to hit me again? But I'm not wrong." "Humph." Now, I didn't want to argue with Ethan either. I just said, "Just wait for legal sanctions. I won't let you off." Ethan's face froze. At this time, Daphne finally reacted. "Julian, is what you said true?" Her tone was still full of disbelief. I sneered coldly. "Do you think I would joke about my mother's life?" She fell silent. After a long while, she walked forward slowly, stood in front of me, and held my tightly clenched hands. She said to me gently, which was rare for her, "Julian, we're all sad about what happened to Mom. Don't be too sad. I will always be with you from now on. I don't need it." I firmly shook off her hand. "Julian." Daphne's face showed displeasure, and she spoke in a stern voice. "What's wrong with you? Just because the wedding wasn't held successfully, do you have to make such a face at people? I also endured a lot of pressure to marry you. If I hadn't been firm with my parents every time that I wanted to be with you, do you think my parents would have agreed to our marriage? Except for the first time you met my parents, when did you ever take the initiative to show yourself in front of them? No wonder my parents were worried about leaving me to you. A man like you, I'm even starting to feel that I'm not worth it for myself." I suddenly laughed out loud. A man like me? What kind of man? Indeed, being with Daphne was beyond my reach. Daphne came from a well-off family, was loved by her parents, and had been like a princess since childhood. After graduating from university, she directly took over her family's company and lived a carefree and unrestrained life. In contrast, I came from the countryside and was from a single-parent family. Other than having excellent grades and being admitted to a key university, I didn't seem to have any other outstanding advantages. Therefore, when Daphne confessed her love to me in university, I couldn't believe it at all. In my heart, Daphne was dazzling, beautiful, and full of charm. I didn't deserve her. But Daphne didn't give up on pursuing love because of my rejection. She always boldly expressed her love to me and said she wanted to be with me. I was well aware of the gap between us. After struggling several times, I still gradually fell deeply in love with her. The day before we got together, I secretly made up my mind that I would surely make a name for myself in the future and do everything I could to make Daphne happy. In the 3rd year of our relationship, I met Daphne's parents for the first time. Before going, I was so nervous that I couldn't sleep well for several nights, and I carefully prepared gifts for the meeting. But during this meeting, I was criticized by Daphne's parents and was belittled to nothing. In the middle of it, all the gifts I brought were thrown out of the house. During this period, Daphne didn't say a single word in my defense. She just silently faced her parents' harsh criticism of me. Instead, I comforted her afterward, saying it didn't matter. Later, I wanted to meet Daphne's parents again to try to create a better impression of myself. But Daphne firmly said that I should not appear in front of her parents for the time being. So I had to give up. Now, Daphne was blaming me for not taking the initiative to perform well. I couldn't help but find it ironic. Perhaps Daphne also realized that she had said something too harsh. She lowered her eyes. "Julian, I didn't mean to blame you. But can you also understand my difficulties? I'm also very heartbroken about your mother's passing. But as long as we're still together, since you've lost your home and your family, I will give them to you. Julian, don't you want that?" I did. I used to dream of it. But now, I didn't want it anymore. Daphne's expression became even softer, and she tried to hold my hand again. I avoided her touch once more. In the end, Daphne couldn't hold it in anymore. She raised her voice in a fit of anger. "How long are you going to keep making trouble? I've been giving you a way out, but you don't appreciate it?" I still remained cold and unyielding, ignoring her. "Fine. Since that's the case, I'll do as you wish. Julian, don't regret it." After saying that, Daphne stepped on her high heels and walked into the Civil Affairs Bureau first. The commotion was surprisingly similar to the day she left the wedding. Ethan followed behind, gave a contrived smile, and gloated, "Hee hee, congratulations. Congratulations to Daphne for finally escaping from the Phoenix Man. I smiled back at him, "You're celebrating too soon. We'll settle your matter separately." Ethan's smile froze on his face immediately. There was still a 1-month cooling-off period for the divorce. After the application was completed, Daphne didn't say a word and left with a sullen face together with Ethan. I immediately called the police. I reported that Ethan was suspected of the crime of intentional injury resulting in death. My mother's death was closely related to the hard push that Ethan gave her. While handling the funeral affairs in my hometown, I asked a friend to retrieve the relevant hotel surveillance footage. However, the incident occurred in the lounge, where there was no surveillance camera installed. As a result, apart from me, my mother, Daphne, and Ethan who were present at the scene, no one could prove that my mother died because of Ethan. But anyway, I still chose to call the police first. The police reacted quickly and summoned Ethan to the police station on the same day. I was also waiting at the police station for interrogation. As expected, Daphne called me. "Julian. What on earth do you want to do? I just realized that you are so vengeful. What does your mother's death have to do with Ethan? Stop slandering people." I retorted, "Daphne, you were also there and saw with your own eyes that Ethan pushed my mother to the ground. Is he really not related to it? Well, he just pushed her a little. Who knows if that's the reason she died." "Oh? Do you need me to send you the doctor's diagnosis report?" Daphne fell silent. I hung up the phone directly and saved the call recording. After I finished giving my statement and came out, it so happened that Daphne was also summoned to give her statement. She gave me a vexed look and entered the interrogation room. However, in the end, it was still impossible to convict Ethan. Ethan insisted that he just touched my mother lightly and that it was because my mother's legs and feet were weak and she couldn't stand steadily that she fell to the ground. As for Daphne, every time she was asked, she either said she didn't know, didn't see clearly, or had forgotten. The three of us left the police station together. At this time, Ethan was no longer guilty and afraid, and he regained his annoying and complacent demeanor. "Cut. Just you? You called the police without any evidence. Are you playing house?" Before I could reply, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a middle-aged man walking quickly towards me. As soon as I turned my head, I was slapped so hard that my head went blank. "Dad!" Daphne exclaimed in surprise. The person who came was Daphne's parents, and it was her father who hit me. Daphne quickly pulled her father away and chided, "Why are you hitting people?" Daphne's mother angrily chimed in, "That's exactly who we're hitting. He's so audacious that he actually got you summoned to the police station for questioning. Who else should we hit if not him?" Ethan also fanned the flames beside them. "Uncle and Aunt, Julian wants me and Daphne to go to jail. Just because his mother died, he wants to shift the blame onto me and Daphne. You can't let him get away with it." After hearing this, Daphne's parents, who didn't know the situation, were even more furious. But Daphne's expression changed. Daphne used to always habitually stand in front of Ethan and speak for him, but now she didn't blindly shield him. "Ethan, what are you talking about? Julian reported you. I was just called here to assist with the questioning. Julian wouldn't let me go to jail." "Daphne." Ethan looked stunned, as if he didn't expect Daphne to expose him in front of me and her parents. My cheek still ached faintly. Facing Daphne's parents, I had nothing to say. The look Daphne gave me carried a hint of expectation, as if she was saying, "Julian, this time I'm on your side." But now I didn't care at all which side she was on, whom she was favoring, or for whom she was speaking. At the moment, I just wanted Ethan to receive the punishment he deserved, to successfully divorce Daphne, and to have no more contact with each other for the rest of our lives. I don't know if Daphne remembered our past relationship or suddenly had an epiphany. Since we parted at the police station, Daphne suddenly changed her ways. She persistently sent me messages and called me. When I didn't answer the phone, she sent messages even more frequently. The content of the messages was nothing more than reminiscing about the past, elaborately recalling the sweetness we experienced when we were together. At the same time, she resorted to her old tricks. She drove a luxury car and lingered downstairs of my house every day, bought me breakfast, and invited me to have lunch and dinner with her. I ignored it all. It was over, and I didn't want to repeat the same mistakes. While being busy with my daily work, I contacted a friend who was a lawyer. Through his introduction, he recommended another lawyer in the firm to take over the case of my mother's death due to a cerebral hemorrhage after falling to the ground. We made an appointment to meet at a coffee shop for the first time. I arrived early and waited for a few minutes. Soon, a woman dressed in a capable suit walked over slowly. I was taken aback. "Mia?" She was my classmate in high school. Mia smiled faintly and extended her hand. "Long time no see, Julian." It was really a coincidence. Who would have thought that the lawyer recommended by my friend would be Mia? In high school, I was the class monitor, and Mia was the study committee member. We also sat at the same desk for a short period. In our youth, Mia was active, lively, witty, and eccentric, and she was very likable. I never expected that she would become an intellectual and mature lawyer now. "I heard about Auntie from William. Please accept my condolences." There was genuine sadness in Mia's eyes, as if she could feel my pain. I suddenly remembered that in high school, Mia had come to my house to deliver homework, and my mother had even invited her to have a meal. Even after graduating from high school, my mother had asked me about Mia's whereabouts. But apart from knowing that Mia had been admitted to a prestigious university in another city, I knew nothing else. Our contact was also cut off after graduating from high school. The environment of the coffee shop was pleasant. I once again described in detail what happened on the day of the wedding. At the same time, I gave Mia the hospital's diagnosis report and the recording. Mia recorded everything one by one. It was obvious that she was very serious about her work. After the work-related matters were finished, Mia put away her computer and document bag. We sat facing each other, and for a moment, we had nothing to say. I was just hesitating whether to say goodbye when Mia suddenly asked, "Julian, are you still with Ms. Daphne now?" I was taken aback for a moment and answered truthfully, "We are in the divorce cooling-off period and are preparing to separate." Mia smiled brightly, "Okay, I see. Because of my mother's matter, my contact with Mia gradually increased. Mia often discussed details with me on WeChat and informed me of the progress. She also invited me to have a meal on the weekend. But I happened to take over a relatively important work project and was so busy that I worked day and night. In the end, I couldn't make it for the meal. My colleagues in the project team often teased me, 'Boss, you're newly married, but you almost live in the company because of your work. Doesn't your wife complain that you don't go home?' Few colleagues knew about what had happened to me recently, and I didn't explain much. I just said it was okay and that work was more important. Another week later, the project finally came to a certain stage. It happened to be Saturday, and Mia sent me a message saying that there was progress in the matter and invited me to have dinner in the evening to talk while eating. I readily agreed. Unexpectedly, we met Daphne and Ethan in the restaurant. When Daphne saw me and Mia, she rushed in front of us as if in a fit of rage and questioned, "Julian, you're having a meal alone with another woman?" Ethan smiled at me. Sure enough. On the way to the restaurant with Mia, I saw Ethan's car following behind us. After we arrived at the destination, it left quietly. Now that he and Daphne appeared here together, it was obviously no coincidence. "Daphne, I didn't lie to you. Julian already has someone else outside." There was anger in Daphne's eyes, and she stared at Mia with full alertness. I felt extremely annoyed. Coincidentally, the meal was coming to an end, and I didn't want to get entangled with them, so I told Mia that we should leave. Mia nodded and just picked up her bag and stood up. Daphne grabbed my arm, "Julian, you explain it to me clearly. What's your relationship with her?" "They must be having an affair," Ethan chimed in. Mia's face turned unpleasant after being mocked. I couldn't help but feel sorry and retorted, "You're a grown man, and all you know is to fan the flames. Don't you think you're ridiculous? If you like fanning the flames so much, the job of tending the boiler in our hometown is quite suitable for you." "You?" Ethan's face turned purple and then red, and he was very angry. Daphne was even more irritable and held on tightly. "You didn't say a word when I was scolding you, but now you feel sorry for her when I'm talking about her? I've just been on a business trip for 2 weeks, and you've already been charmed by another woman so quickly? Julian, don't forget that we haven't divorced yet." Daphne didn't deliberately control her voice, and the people dining in the restaurant heard it and looked over, clearly eager to gossip. "It's only a matter of time, isn't it? I didn't plan to make the breakup with Daphne too ugly. After all, we had been in a relationship for several years, and I had truly loved her. I just wanted to part ways amicably. But Daphne kept pestering me repeatedly, which was really annoying. When the disappointment accumulated to a certain extent, it didn't seem like a big deal to break up completely." I smiled. "Daphne, what are you getting so excited about? I remember you weren't like this before. Who was it that said if I had an opposite-sex friend as close as you and Ethan, they would definitely be happy for me? Now I'm just having a meal with someone, and you're this angry?" Daphne's expression froze on her face, and her reaction afterward was quite dramatic. Daphne gritted her teeth and defended herself. "Ethan and I are really just friends. No need to explain. I don't care. Daphne, I don't love you anymore." Daphne looked up in shock, and there was a moment of distraction in her eyes as she stared at me. "How is that possible? You love me?" Looking at her like this, for some reason, I felt a bit of satisfaction in my heart. Daphne finally tasted the bitterness of being sad and anxious. With that said, Mia and I left together. Just as we stepped out of the door, Daphne chased after us again. This time she was aggressive. "Julian, did you cheat on me a long time ago?" I furrowed my brows. I really didn't know where she got this conclusion from. "You went on a business trip at the beginning of the year and didn't come back for a full 4 months. I called and messaged you, but you only replied after a long time. Tell me, did you start having an affair with her at that time?" The more Daphne spoke, the more she felt that her guess was close to the truth, and she became very emotional. Ethan came out and shouted, "It must be the case. Otherwise, what was he doing during those 4 months when he disappeared?" I specifically asked the people in his company, and he didn't go on a business trip at all during those 4 months. I was stunned for a moment. Daphne's suspicion and questioning at this moment made me feel even more that I, who had once given all my love, was like a joke. I said calmly, "If you want to know what I was doing during those 4 months, you can ask your father. He knows it very well." After that, I was about to leave. Mia beside me didn't move. She suddenly turned to Ethan and said, "Mr. Ethan, I didn't answer your question just now. Now I can tell you that I'm Julian's acting lawyer. I have some good news for you. I've already obtained strong evidence of your suspected crime of intentional injury resulting in death. You can just wait." Before Ethan could react to this news, Mia then asked Daphne, "Ms. Daphne, did you upload your private photos to some inappropriate websites?" Daphne was stunned and instinctively said no. She also asked Mia why she was asking this. At this time, Ethan beside her was sweating coldly, his body was stiff, and he was clenching his fists, looking extremely guilty. The meaning was obvious. "Sorry for making you be attacked for no reason. Before we parted, I apologized sincerely." Mia tilted her head and smiled deliberately. "Why are you being so polite?" I immediately relaxed. "What you said to Daphne just now." When it came to serious matters, Mia also put away her smile. It turned out that when Mia was handling other work, she accidentally found an account that was full of women's full-nude private photos, and the scale was very large. Daphne's photos were also among them, and there were the most of hers. Connecting it with Ethan's profession, Mia suspected that it was Ethan's account. After hearing this, I smiled. It was both unexpected and not unexpected. I had long known that Ethan had feelings for Daphne. Only Daphne was stupid enough to think that they were just close male and female friends. She didn't know that she had been taken advantage of by others. But when I thought about it this way, I wasn't much smarter either. I could even be called a generation of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I had let the green hat, symbolizing being cuckolded, be blatantly on my head for several years, and I was reluctant to take it off. It was only now that I finally woke up. Fortunately, it wasn't too late, and I still had a bright future ahead of me. As Mia said, Ethan couldn't escape this time. After taking over my case, Mia went to the hotel again immediately. To protect privacy, there really wasn't any surveillance installed in the lounge. But Mia persistently checked the surveillance in the guest hall, and she really found a breakthrough. When Ethan left the hotel with Daphne, he didn't have the camera in his hand. You know, Ethan was the photographer that day and had brought his own camera and other equipment. So, where was his camera? Mia asked the hotel manager and some staff. At first, they seemed to have a unified response, saying, "I don't know," over and over again. Just when Mia thought she couldn't get any clues, the manager suddenly relented and handed the camera to her. The manager said that the camera was left behind by a customer in the lounge and was picked up by the cleaning staff. Unexpectedly, the camera had accidentally recorded the whole process of the pushing and arguing at the scene. Later, Ethan had come back to the hotel to look for the equipment. The manager lied that it had been stolen and couldn't be found. Ethan didn't dwell on it and left after taking a sum of compensation. Presumably, he didn't expect that he had forgotten to turn off the camera and left behind evidence. In this way, when reporting to the police and suing Ethan again, we had much more confidence than the first time. Ethan finally panicked. In a desperate situation, he asked Daphne for help again. However, according to Mia, Daphne had broken up with Ethan completely. Ethan was so audacious that he not only posted Daphne's and other women's revealing photos on inappropriate websites without permission but also molested Daphne several times when she was drunk and unconscious. Daphne discovered this by herself. On that day, filled with suspicion, she immediately had someone search Ethan's house. As expected, there were a large number of indecent videos and photos stored in Ethan's computer at home. When Daphne's parents learned about this, they were so angry that they almost vomited blood and fainted. They threatened to find the best lawyer to make Ethan spend the rest of his life in prison. Naturally, I was glad to see this. On the day Ethan was sentenced, I naturally went to the scene. Ethan, who used to be bright and shiny and regarded himself as superior, now looked as listless as an eggplant beaten by frost, weak and spineless. But when he saw me, he seemed to have a last burst of energy. He shouted at me with a ferocious expression, "Julian, do you think you've won? I'll tell you, I'm the winner. I'm the most important person in Daphne's heart. How does it feel? It must have been killing you to endure watching the woman you love kiss and be intimate with another man all these years. I even had sex with Daphne." You don't know, she was so proactive. Ha ha ha, but she actually mistook me for you. If it weren't for you butting in, the one who would be with Daphne would only be me. It's all your fault. You should die. The more Ethan spoke, the more crazy he became. He even tried to break free from the guards and rush over to hit me. Unfortunately, he didn't have the strength to do so and was immediately stopped and taken away. As he left, he was crying and laughing, mumbling, "Daphne won't bear to let me go to prison. Daphne will come to save me." Coincidentally, the day after Ethan was sentenced happened to be the end of the divorce cooling-off period between me and Daphne. I sent her a message the night before, asking her to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau the next day to finalize the divorce. Daphne didn't reply to the message. And no one answered when I called her. I couldn't help feeling a bit depressed. It seemed that we might not be able to get divorced this time. The next day, I even went to Daphne's house in person to pick her up and go to the Civil Affairs Bureau together, but I was turned away. A whole day passed, and the Civil Affairs Bureau had already closed for the day, but Daphne still didn't show up. So I first went back to my hometown to visit my mother's grave. The woman in the photo on the tombstone was young and beautiful. It was a photo of my mother when she was young. She had been beautiful and youthful. Until her husband died in an accident, she became the pillar of the family overnight. As a rural woman, she worked desperately to raise her son, running around day and night, tired. She was only in her 50s, but the years had already left deep marks on her face. After coming back from my hometown, I contacted Daphne again and made a new appointment for the divorce application. Daphne still didn't reply. I had to contact Daphne's best friend and learned that Daphne had gone abroad with her parents to relax and would be back in a while. I had to wait patiently and contacted a lawyer who specialized in divorce matters, just in case. During this period, my contact with Mia didn't decrease just because of the end of the Ethan matter. On the contrary, in our spare time from work, we would occasionally make an appointment to have a meal, climb mountains, or play tennis together. Coincidentally, when we made an appointment to play tennis again, we met another male classmate from high school. In my memory, this male classmate had a crush on Mia. But when he saw Mia and me standing together, he raised his eyebrows and said with surprise in his tone, "Are you really together?" Then he smiled at Mia and said, "Study committee member, congratulations on getting what you want." Mia said, "We're not together yet." The male classmate let out an "ah" sound and then brushed it off with a laugh after a moment. On the way home after playing tennis, we were both a bit silent. Finally, I took the initiative to ask, "Mia, do you like me?" Mia didn't deny it. I smiled and said, "You're so excellent. You'll meet someone better." In an instant, I noticed that Mia's eyes were red. I felt a bit at a loss and didn't know what to say. For a long time after we parted, Mia and I didn't see each other again. I threw all my energy into my work and took the initiative to undertake a big project, making myself even busier. It wasn't until half a year later that the project was successfully completed, and I suddenly felt relaxed. I filed for a divorce lawsuit in court. Daphne had been out of touch for more than half a year, and I didn't want to delay it any longer. During my vacation, I went on a self-driving trip to Tibet with my friends. The original intention was to relax, but as a result, I felt unwell for several days due to altitude sickness. Despite the discomfort, the moment I witnessed the great rivers and mountains of our motherland with my own eyes, I suddenly realized that the purpose of people living in this world is for those moments. Moments of love, moments of sincerity, moments of sharing, and moments of impulse. Life is just a few decades. There's nothing that can't be obtained or let go of. On the way back from Tibet, I received a text message from Daphne. After not seeing her for such a long time, I was somewhat surprised when I saw Daphne. The person in front of me was extremely thin and looked haggard. Her long, cascading hair, which she used to be so proud of, had now been cut short. Just looking at her back, would never have associated this person with the always delicate and beautiful Daphne. I also had a message from Daphne's father on my phone. He said that Daphne had been stimulated by the previous events and was diagnosed with depression. He asked me to have a good talk with Daphne. He also said that if I was willing, he would accept our getting back together. I couldn't help but feel ironic. Putting away my phone, I sat face to face with Daphne. "Julian, I'm sorry." The first words out of Daphne's mouth were an apology. After saying that, a tear rolled down her eye socket. She asked me if it hurt. I didn't understand what she meant. She said, "I know about the car accident. My parents told me." I remained silent. The car accident happened during the 4 months when Daphne thought I was on a business trip. That day, Daphne's parents came to me again and ordered me to break up with Daphne. I refused to give in. No matter what conditions they offered, I remained indifferent and unshaken. At the end of the conversation, Daphne's father and mother still left angrily. I accompanied them downstairs. That's when the accident happened. A car suddenly appeared and rushed straight towards the old couple. For the first time in my life, I moved so quickly. I instinctively rushed forward and pushed the two of them away, and I was hit by the car instead. During that time, I stayed in the hospital. At first, I was in a coma. Daphne's father saw the messages Daphne sent on my phone and took the initiative to make up an excuse that I was on a business trip to fob her off. After I woke up, Daphne's father asked me not to tell Daphne about this. He was worried that I would use this matter to morally blackmail Daphne. I didn't have such an intention, and indeed I never mentioned this to Daphne. Firstly, I didn't want her to worry. They could share the same glass of water. For anyone, I might have instinctively tried to save them. Hearing Daphne mention this matter, I didn't feel much about it either. For me, this is just a thing of the past now and not worth mentioning. Daphne lowered her head. I used to be too willful. Relying on your indulgence, I hurt you time and time again without considering the boundaries. I really regret it. When I realized that you really wanted a divorce from me, I admit that I panicked. I love you very much and don't want to lose you. But I also couldn't understand myself at that time. Why did I always speak harshly to you and always stand against you when Ethan targeted you? Daphne slowly raised her head, her eyes filled with tears. Obviously, I was the one who said I loved you first. But when you really loved me, I seemed unable to say I loved you anymore. I can't remember how long it has been since Daphne and I sat together calmly and had a conversation like this. Even when we were together, because of Ethan, we often started getting angry and arguing after just a few words. There's no denying that I was very tired of this relationship at times. And in the most helpless moment, I casually asked Daphne without much expectation if she wanted to get married. Daphne surprisingly agreed happily. At that moment, I thought I could still hold on. Unfortunately, in the end, we still ended up going our separate ways. Daphne and I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau again to apply for a divorce. After the 1-month cooling-off period ended, I finally got the divorce certificate as I wished. From then on, Daphne and I went our separate ways. Not long after, a familiar unexpected guest appeared by my side. Without the professional suit, Mia was still as lively as she was in her youth. She walked backwards facing me with her hands behind her back, her eyes smiling. Julian, I thought about it. After all, I've liked you since high school. If I don't fight for it, I'll really feel sorry for myself. Whether it's good or bad to be with you should be up to me. You can't make a conclusion for me. So, Julian, I'm going to chase you.